Good evening, Mr. Naidu. How have you been?
Yeah, I've been good. Good evening to you, Raj. Actually, must really thank you because you've been a very good housing agent so far.
Thanks a lot. I have gone through all the legal documents, and currently your house is valued at 250,000, and with a cash overvaluation, it can go up to 280,000. Is that good for you?
That works perfect for me, actually.
That's good. So, if that's okay, let me bring forward a proposal to you. What we can do is actually the buyer is really willing to get this, willing and really wants this property. So, we can actually sell it for 320,000. But the extra 40,000 won't be on paper. It won't be affected by taxes. Is what do you think?
My major concern here is that is this procedure legal?
Well, legality wise, I can say it's kind of a gray area, but what I can assure you is a lot of people have done this and they have managed to pull this off. And there's nothing, you're not harming anyone, you see, because the buyer is willing to pay. He pays the extra 40,000 cash to you, 10% of the commission goes to me, and the rest cash is in your hands.
In that case, if you've been a very trustworthy person so far, and I believe you can handle this issue, and I could always do with more cash.
So
So
could I.
yeah, this sounds like a plan.
Okay, then shall we call it a deal?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Naidu.
Thank you.
All rise for the judge. Please be seated. The record will show the presence of the jury, the defendant, and our counsel. The case is Housing Development Board versus Rajarshi Maiti. The plaintiff has accused Mr. Maiti of breaching an agreement between the real estate agency and the HDB. Mr. Maiti has convinced the seller to make an underhand payment of 40,000 Singapore dollars, which was not presented in the transaction papers. According to the Crescent Penal Code section 256.1, the maximum sentence for this crime will be death penalty. Mr. Maiti, you need to take the stand, please. Mr. Maiti, you are still under oath. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Counsels, you may proceed with the opening statement.
Good evening, Senior Counsel, gentlemen, ladies. I am Public Prosecutor Dinesh, and I'm speaking on behalf of my client, the Housing Development Board. This evening, we are present here to witness the prosecution of this notorious criminal, a materialistic housing agent who has actually breached housing regulation at several counts. The defendant, Mr. Maiti, is a perfect example of the consequences that our society faces as a result of materialism and the quest for profit. At this time, I would like to bring your attention to a local study done by an organization by the name of A Advantage Consultancy and a Britain-based value center that did it in conjunction with them last year in 2012, which reveals that Singaporeans, generally speaking, are materialistic, competitive, and selfish, all of which inherently are supplementing each other. An independent study was also conducted by SMU recently, reveals that women in specific in Singapore are more materialistic than the women in the United States. Thank you.
Good evening, Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen. My client, Mr. Rajarshi Maiti, is being charged today for corruptive acts. Now, indeed, the action itself is unacceptable under the code of law. However, I would like to highlight his intent. He did it not because of his greed for wealth, it was because of his need for wealth. This country has become far too expensive for his million earnings, and it's become far too expensive for him and his family to survive. And that is why he went for the extra cash and took this path. Therefore, Your Honor, I would like that Mr. Maiti's plight be taken into consideration. Thank you. Thank you, counsels. You may now start with the cross-examination.
Good evening to you, Mr. Maiti. Do you understand that you have been charged for corruptive practices?
Yes,
Just like check with you, do you drive and what vehicle do you drive?
I do. I drive a Honda Civic.
Correction. Your Honor, at this juncture, I would like to present the evidence for the vehicle that Mr. Maiti drives. As you can see from Exhibit 12.3, he drives a Honda Civic Type R, priced first hand at almost 200,000 Singapore dollars. Mr. Maiti, do you own properties overseas?
Not exactly.
Let me help you with that, Mr. Maiti. Your Honor, these are the evidences for the properties that he owns at Perth, which he just purchased last month for Australian $125,000. As you can infer, in contrary to what the defendant Mr. Mighty chooses to believe, he did not do this crime because he was in need of money. He was just a materialistic man trying to amass more wealth. This crime committed was possible because all the parties involved were materialistic. The housing agent wanted to make more commission, the seller wanted to make more money. Very fortunately, in our case, the buyer, his senses was still intact, because in most unreported cases, the buyer himself is lured into this scam because he wants a house of his dream. Which leads me to my point on the 5 C's of materialism in Singapore, which includes cash, car, credit card, condominium, and country club. With this, we have to move on to the consequences that our society will face in regards to materialism, in this prolonged period of materialism that we have encountered in Singapore. It is such a pity that materialism and the drive for getting more profit have preceded the importance of family values and bonds. A recent study performed by a non-profit organization by the name of Transitioning published a research article recently that links materialism to the fall in relationship. And they highlighted these 3 main points. A lot of couples, when they get married, they are too workaholic, they focus on their work and making more profits, they actually don't give birth to kids, and that gives rise to low birth rates, which leads to the aging population that Singapore is facing currently. And even if they do, it leads to failed marriages and ultimately broken families. With this, I shall rest my case. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Raji. Now, is this the first time committing this crime?
Yes.
Have you ever done anything like this before?
No.
Now, according to your records, you have a very clean history as a property agent. Your clients and your colleagues have also verified that you have always tried to give them the best prices. Can you please tell the court what caused this to change?
Well, I didn't want to do it at first, but I really needed the money.
Then why would you need so much money, Ms. Mighty?
With the rising cost of living in Singapore and with a large family, my average salary wasn't enough.
Now, just to make things clear, you just said your money isn't enough, your salary isn't enough, am I right?
Yes.
And that is because of the rising costs in Singapore?
Correct.
Very well. Your Honor, this is Defense Exhibit 72.01. And this shows the CPI and inflation rates of the past decade. Now, as we all know, the CPI is a measure of changes in prices of goods and services in Singapore. 2002 was set as the year of reference. From this, we can see the CPI has been increasing for a good 10 years. Exhibit 62.44, Your Honor. In 2001, Singapore was ranked 97th. In just 10 years, 2012, Singapore is now ranked 6th as the most expensive city in this world. Exhibit 12.28, HDB flat prices. Now, for our convenience, I've actually put out 4-room flat prices into Exhibit 12.28. Now, since the early millennium, 4-room flat prices have seen a drastic increase in prices, 109% to be exact. Now, Your Honor, this means that if you were to buy a 4-room flat now, it would cost more than double what it used to cost.
Objections, Your Honor.
Objection sustained.
At this juncture, I would like to remind the Defence Counsel that our Finance Minister, Mr. Daman, mentioned in the Parliament that a Singaporean with an average salary of just $1,000 a month will be able to afford an HDB flat. Thank you.
Now, Your Honor, yes, indeed, it is true that Mr. Daman mentioned the $1,000. However, I'd like to bring it to your attention that he mentioned the $1,000. They are first-time applicants of 2-room BTO flats, not 4-room flats. That is why you cannot base on Mr. Daman's facts and say that you can survive with just $1,000. Now, Your Honor, with such increasingly difficult circumstances, my client was driven into a corner. Now, no doubt what he did was wrong, but it wasn't because he is materialistic, it wasn't because he is on a quest for profit. He was on a quest for survival. If anything, my client should be guilty of his love for his family and his desire to provide them with a better life. With that, I rest my case.
Thank you. Mr. Maiji, do you have anything to say?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen, I come from an average background. I wasn't born with a golden or silver spoon, like many of my fellow Singaporean friends. However, I worked hard to rise and be where I am today. I have a wife, 4 kids, and my parents to take care of. With the rising cost of living in Singapore, it's extremely difficult to sustain a family. And especially with the materialistic world, where Singapore seems to be at the forefront of it, it's almost close to impossible. My kids need to acquire these latest gadgets just to blend in with their friends. Of course, some of you might say, that is a trivial issue, I shouldn't be worried about it. But let me bring forward a hard, cold fact in your eyes. Singapore is a meritocratic society where only the best can survive. And in order to be the best, you need to be physically and mentally strong. It is extremely detrimental for a kid's confidence and mental state to be ostracized by his fellow classmates and friends just because he lacks these gadgets. I, as a father, as a parent, would never let the lack of money be an issue that pulls my kids back. I will never let that happen, can you? However, I'm not saying that for this, you go ahead and steal, kill somebody or rob a bank. No. What I did was I was being opportunistic. There was a chance for all three parties to gain something from it. We got that. We took that chance. We didn't harm anybody. Is it that wrong to do that? I did this for my kids, for my family, to give them a sense of belonging, a sense of pride. You look in today's society. Our society is filled with materialism. Look, when you travel in trains, do you see people talking to each other, or do you see this sight where everyone is busy on their S3s and iPhones? Of course, I'm not blaming the society for what it has become, but I do believe that we need to change and adapt with the society. And like they say, when in Rome, do as Romans do. So, is it that wrong to try to get some extra cash as long as I'm not harming somebody?
Objections, Your Honor. Mr. Mighty, you are just a complacent, selfish and myopic man. You claim that you do all this because you want to give your family a comfortable life, but what you're trying to give them is a luxurious one. Are you sure about that, Mr. Mighty?
Objection, Your Honor. The prosecutor is making unfounded accusations against my client, and this should not be tolerated. My client has an impeccable record for helping the needy and charity donations. He is not the selfish, materialistic person that is being portrayed here.
But that is not the truth.
You can't handle the truth. You want the truth. Here it is. My child is diagnosed with a very rare mental disease, and that requires me tens and thousands of dollars every month. I can't afford to pay that. But I did not want to bring this up because I'm scared my child will undergo social scrutiny. But you made me do it. Now, tell me, is it that wrong to commit this so-called crime?
Come on, Mr. Mighty, I would love to sympathize with you. But you just claim that you did not pay this tax because of your own family. But if you had paid the tax for these transactions, that money would have been used by the government to help the needy. What you are, just a materialistic man who wanted to make more money for yourself and your clients, and yet you have the cheek to justify your crime.
Are you telling me that you wouldn't take such steps to save your child?
Even
you
if
should
I
be
do-
charged for your...
Even if I do.
All in the court, gentlemen, please be seated and maintain discipline. It is true that Singapore has an issue of rising costs. However, after hearing arguments from both the counsels and taking into account of the evidence presented, the court has come to a verdict of guilty for the defendant. Despite it being a first-time offence, this very crime reflects poorly of our society and its mentality. Despite the rising cost of living and ever-increasing COE, the demand for luxury cars has never declined. In fact, Munich Automobiles managed to set a sales record in the year 2011 for their brand new BMW M Series. On the other hand, Singaporean teenagers, who are our future leaders, are becoming more materialistic. Why is it so? This is because their parents are busy at their work. They do not have the time to spend with their children. Therefore, they will try to compromise it with material comfort. As such, the children will tend to prefer material comfort than their parents' genuine concern. Materialism should never be an excuse to bend the law or even to commit an immoral act. As such, as a form of deterrence, the court has decided to deliver the maximum sentence to Mr. Mighty. He is to be stoned till death. And now the court is dismissed.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, I just wanna take you anywhere to